John Testerman from Loma Linda.
Morning, John.
Less than 2 hours from here, we have a
Blue zone.
family medicine. Yes.
You have a blue zone, too.
Yes, sort of a mixed blue zone, but blue parts of it anyway.
Yeah.
In the city of San Bernardino, there's a federally qualified health center called SAC Health System, where we have family medicine residents and combined family medicine / preventive medicine residents combined program, working to see patients in a poverty-stricken population. And what we have run into is the socioeconomic determinants of health. So as one example, there was a lot of effort by a medical student there to educate a patient about a healthy diet and so forth. At the end, he says, well, I'm homeless and I get all my food from the dumpster behind the McDonald's. And we run into people who don't live in neighborhoods that are safe enough to go out and exercise. The grocery stores don't have fresh fruits and vegetables, and the cheapest calories available are at McDonald's. And so do you envision any kind of program whereby we get involved, which means politically, and in many other areas in cities and city councils and things like that, to try to address some of the socioeconomic determinants of health?
Thank you for the question, John. Absolutely, yes. Some of you may know of a great book by, among others, my former colleague at Yale, Ted Marmer, Why Some People Are Healthy and Others Are Not. If you haven't read it, I think it's one of the great contributions to public health. It's all about the social determinants of health. And we've heard more recently that our medical destinies have more to do with our zip code than our genetic code, right? So, profound environmental influences. Actually, John's story reminds me of a time I was precepting in a clinic with residents many years ago, and I had a very frustrated resident trying to talk a patient into smoking cessation. And this patient just wouldn't quit smoking. So I said, well, let's see what we can accomplish together. Went in the room, spent some time talking with the patient. It turns out she, too, was homeless, living under a railroad bridge with a daughter to look after. Smoking was the least of her problems. So at the individual level, I think one of the things we have to do is recognize some people live in a very difficult world. And we need a therapeutic alliance. We need to go where they are. I've placed the emphasis on culture, but I also made very clear, I revere what we do as clinicians. And one of the things we do that culture really can't do is deliver messages and deliver strategies with the N of one finesse. It can't be about everybody. It's got to be about you. So, finding a home and engaging social service and address, what are the challenges that led to the homelessness, and can we get at that? There will be a role, always, I think, for that N of one level of care, that intimacy. So that's a critical step. In terms of the broader advocacy, yes, I think one of the things we rally for in lifestyle medicine is overcoming disparities. But I'm going to say something that may seem slightly heretical here. I was having a conversation with Mark Berman, if he's in the room, at dinner last night. You can probably guess my politics, right? Anybody want to guess my politics? You can guess my politics. So you know which way I lean as a public health type. I only quote Reagan on very rare occasions. I like trust but verify. I think that's a good one. I don't really believe in trickle-down economics, but believe it or not, I sort of do believe in trickle-down nutrition. So you talk about supermarkets that only sell junk. Why? Well, they sell the junk made by manufacturers who are selling to the population at large. If there are no manufacturers who can profit from making junk, there is no junk. And so it may very well be that the bodega isn't stocked with every variety of fruit and vegetable you find at Dean and DeLuca, but they would be stocked with beans and lentils and whole grains, inexpensive, highly nutritious foods that everybody could get and afford, and it's a good place to start. But there wouldn't be Lucky Charms cereal if the middle class refuses to buy Lucky Charms cereal. The day we wake up, snap out of our Slim Fast-induced coma and recognize that multicolored marshmallows are not part of a complete breakfast, they'll stop selling the crap. And when they do, it can't flow down to the bodega. So, food deserts are places that have two problems. One, they don't have access to food we wish they had access to. We need to work to fix that. Absolutely critical emphasis on social determinants of health. But two, they do have food that's junk, manufactured by companies that profit from selling junk, and they profit mostly not from the little bit of residuum that winds up on the shelf of the bodega. They profit by selling it to us and our families and our patients. When we say no, that goes away. And by the way, one final comment about that. The ability of a change in demand to transform the food supply, we've seen it. Natural experiments. And we didn't necessarily like them, but they happened. We got hung up on low fat. Now, we did it wrong. We didn't eat the way Cal advises, or Dean advises, or John advises, or Joel advises. We never did that. When we got a low-fat message, did we all start eating more kale? No, we ate Snackwell cookies. Why? Because the food industry heard the message and said, goody, we'll invent highly profitable, high-calorie, low-fat junk food, tell them that's what they thought they wanted, and they'll buy it. And we did. But the interesting thing is there was no legislation, there was no policy, but every supermarket in the country filled up with low-fat food. And then we did it again. We said, aha, we know what the problem is. We got the wrong macronutrient, right? We weren't supposed to cut fat. We were supposed to cut carbs. Well, frankly, even Atkins, and I didn't agree with Atkins about anything, but even Atkins didn't say eat low-carb brownies. He said eat more meat and eat more cheese. We got low-carb brownies, right? The food industry said, goody, a whole new way to engineer junk food. Let's do it again, right? So if we simply said we're done with that, we only buy truly nutritious food, we have good evidence that they would come around and make more nutritious food. And yes, that would influence what happens even in those very challenged neighborhoods. Pretty much the same thing with physical activity. If sidewalks and opportunities to walk to and from work and school were normal in our culture, they would be more normal in challenged neighborhoods. Now, you have a neighborhood that's overrun with drugs or crime or violence, it still wouldn't be safe to use those neighborhoods. We will always have those problems to wrestle with, too. It's a parallel issue. But it's more likely that there would be sidewalks in the first place if our culture were devoted to better use of feet, right? So I think it's a combination. I think culture change is the rising tide that can lift all boats, including those disenfranchised neighborhoods. And then we need targeted attention at those neighborhoods and the social determinants. But at the end of one level, somebody needs to help this poor person get a house and figure out why she's homeless in the first place. And after that, she may say, thank you, now I trust you. Now, what was that you were trying to tell me about healthy living? Because I'll listen to you now.